Good. So there's one thing I missed in talking about what you want to offer them as part of your program. Peggy, thank you for bringing that up. Is on the list here, thought control, emotional mastery, self-hypnosis, 4 sessions, clear mental baggage, recording.
Yeah.
I always mention that in the phone call. And they will come away with a recording of the crucial parts of each of our sessions. Oh my gosh, people love this. And it's so easy. I had it asked, how do you do recordings? I use GarageBand on my Mac. If you have a Mac, most of them come with it. I didn't know how to use GarageBand at first. I didn't know how to do a lot of things at first. You know how I figure out stuff? I get on Craigslist and I write in a post saying, can somebody teach me how to use GarageBand? I'll meet you at a coffee shop near you and I'll pay you $20 for an hour or two. And I always get some college kid who's a whiz at this stuff, gets right next to me, and I buy him a coffee, and I know how to do GarageBand in 2 hours for 10 or 20 bucks. Because I learn best with somebody showing me. There's lots of video tutorials on all this stuff, and I go, what? This doesn't make sense. And the stuff that they show you on the video tutorials is not always the exact one you have, and there's differences. But you get the kid sitting over your shoulder, and you make sure you do the work, because sometimes they want to take over and do it for you, which doesn't help you at all, right?
Actually driving.
Yeah, but for like 20 bucks and a couple hours of my time, boom, I know how to use GarageBand. It's amazing. Audacity is the one on Windows. You can also use it on Mac, and it's free. You can download Audacity for free. And you make an MP3, and you can put music in the background, and I send it to them at night using a service called
You send it.
Oh.
YouSendIt.com.
which allows you to send large files in email. Yes?
I just have to say, you're the one who turned me on to doing recordings for my clients.
Good.
I think I've been doing it maybe for about a year or two, but 2 years probably now. And it really does. It's easy. You know, I bring out my laptop. I have it right there. You know, have my mic, and you know, it's one of the induction part. And I stop it when we're doing process work,
Yes.
and then go back into, you know, doing the recording to like bring it all together. You know,
Right.
for suggestions.
Did you hear that?
What they've
So you
done.
stop it if you're going to do the interactive work, which we'll talk about more tomorrow.
Right.
You know, where you're actually going to do talking and hypnosis to each other. I do my induction, I hit stop, then we do the one-on-one back and forth, and then when we're done with that, I hit play again, and I just do a wrap-up.
Oh.
I just talk about what we just did,
Right. Yeah.
and I highlight some of the key points that they brought up.
Yeah.
And because you did this, now you're going to be able to do that. And I just pound that in every which way from Sunday that I can think about and based on my notes. And boom, you've got an induction and a reinforcement of what you just did. They take it home. They run it in their mind all the time. The biggest thing, and we haven't even gotten to this yet, but I'll just preview it. Cause and effect. This is how I do all my work. Whatever the cause is, there's an effect. And we're going to go find the cause, and that's going to alleviate the effect. Now, some of you might be asking, how do you know we got the cause? I have massaged this into plausible cause and effect. And it works. What does that mean? Some of you are laughing, you already get it. What it means is if I can convince this person this is probably the cause, then boom, we got it. And if they can't come up with anything else, it works. I say, is there anything else? No. Then we got it, didn't we? I don't really know if we really got it or not. It doesn't matter. As I started thinking over time, yeah, go ahead.
I always tell clients, people don't know why they do the things they're doing or why they feel what they're feeling. The best we could hope to do is guess.
That's fine. That's great. I like to go a little bit further and say, this is it.
Declare it.
Declare it. Because think about it. For years, hypnosis was mostly just direct suggestion. Tell you you're now great. And that worked for some people some of the time. But if we can go a little bit deeper and dissect and find these causes and point them out and they make sense like they should be, well, by gosh, that's 10 times more powerful than direct. Now, if somehow the ultimate judge or God of psychology were in our office with us and said, yes, that's it, then by gosh, I would jump on that. But we don't have that. Yes.
When I was in my hypnosis training, one of the most profound things, I love semantics, that, person under hypnosis, ask a question, I don't know. Well, if you did, what would you imagine it would
Yes.
be? And I love the
Guess or
word
imagine.
that it's an image in your mind, that's all it is. And I just, that's always stuck with me, that, we have an imagination, but that's part of our mind. And I just think that is so profound that, if you don't know what it is, imagine what it might be.
You brought up a really good point, using the word imagine.
Yeah,
So
imagine.
I don't use the word envision
Yeah.
or see. Here's why. A lot of people are not that visual. Okay, and you will confuse those people. You'll make them feel bad about themselves. So most people are visual, and if you're sure they're visual and they say, oh, I'm very visual, then visualize, use those words all over the place. But a lot of times I'm not sure, so I say think, pretend, or imagine, as much as possible if I don't know. Now, especially in the sports world, because in the whole sports world, they all talk about visualize this and visualize that. And there's a whole bunch of athletes out there going, I don't know what you're talking about. And you know who's the number one person in the sports world who doesn't visualize? Tiger Woods. There's a YouTube video, and I can send it to you in email if you really want to see it, where he was asked, do you visualize? And he says he was taught at 13 years old by his mental trainer about visualization. Tiger says, I followed Jack Nicklaus, who says you have to visualize everything, frontwards, backwards, like a movie, slow motion. And Tiger says, I couldn't do it. Because everything was distorted, these shots, and my mind was all over the place. It just didn't work for me. And so his trainer says, well, Tiger, then just feel it. And that broke open the doors. So think, imagine, pretend are much better words to be safe with. Any questions?
Limit the senses that way.
Yeah, you can do it however you want.
Well, you have to also, I think, if you hear about how they're speaking to you, you'll know if they're auditory, if they're visual. Or
If you're sure and you got it, feel free to go with it. Yeah, a lot of times I'm not sure, yeah.
Would it make sense because people that are athletic are mostly kinesthetic?
I would not say that at all.
No.
No. You'd be amazed how so many of them are totally disconnected from their body.
Really?
Yeah. They don't have a clue. In fact, I'll ask them, what is it, how do you feel right before an event that you think you're just going to nail it? And they'll say, well, it feels like I believe that I can do it. A total head description. I'll say, no, tell me how you feel. Well, I think it's a good thing, and they'll do all these head descriptions. And part of the process, we'll talk about this in the emotional mastery, is to get them to connect head to body. But the athletes are no better than the general population about being in touch with their body, trust me. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a guy on the table, and he was an athlete. He's an off-road biker and all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff. And literally, he was having pain in his arm, so I'm pushing on his arm. I'm moving his arm. I said, oh, that's really hard. How does that feel? I'm thinking it's going to be painful. He goes, I don't feel it.
See?
And I said, huh? I literally put his hand on his other arm, and I said, you do know I'm moving this. And he says, I can feel it with my hand, but I'm not feeling it with my arm.
Yep. Yep.
This-
Exactly.
Totally
There's proof for it.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions about the exercise we did? I was kind of wandering around, and when we do these exercises, I will. And grab me if you want. Did anybody have anything else that came up that you weren't sure how to answer or how to deal with it? About that? Yeah.
We'd actually gone through, what was wrong with her child, and would tell me more about it. But she didn't include it. She didn't say how much is it going to cost. She just told me she started to talk in depth about what was wrong, what was going on, and then at the end she said, "And how much is this going to cost?" And I'd run out of things to say. Well, tell me what's going on, because we'd already spoken about what was going on. So.
And did you then give her, before you ever give money, your sessions, you got to tell them what they're going to get for it.
Then I went into this is what we do.
Good.
You do it, but it was still like.
Cost is the last thing you give them.
create the value first.
Right. So in internet marketing, you guys might have seen this before, where you watch a video and a certain timer comes up, 10 minutes later, a buy button comes up. Later. Because you show up at the page, they don't want you to see the price. Right? If you're scrolling this big old long sales letter, the prices are always at the bottom. Now people have learned to just go whoop, right to the bottom. But the point is, you need to build the value. Because it's not about how much you charge. Because if you just say, well, if I just answer, well, I charge $200 a session. Now what do they do in their head? They're going to compare me to everyone else who they've called and said, oh, he's 200, she's 150, I'm going with 200. Or 150, the cheapest, right?
Yeah.
Build the value. So you give them, that's the whole point of this exercise, tell them what you're going to get. Tell them what this is about. Give them a program, give them a structure. You know, you're saying, and I'll even throw in there, you know, I don't have a cookie cutter product. I'll flex with my client. I'm totally client-centered. I'll say things like that. So they got a program and it's tailored to you. That's irresistible. A total proven program. You can use those words. I've got a proven program. Sometimes that comes out of my mouth. You know? And I've done this for years with so many gymnasts or whatever. Or so many people looking for stress relief. And it works like a charm. When my clients follow my instructions, use the tools, they get everything they want. It's so powerful. All of my clients get their outcome. It's like, where do I sign up? You know, they have no more questions. Cool. Quickly, back to the book here, page 2, middle, when support or parent calls for the client. Sometimes we get people who call, like for the kid, or for my husband, or my wife, or my daughter, or whatnot. Okay? We got to be really careful about that. One thing I'm big on, especially in the sports world, is does the client really want to do this? For those of you who've done hypnosis, you know, it's like in the smoking thing. My husband, I want him to do hypnosis for smoking. You know, I've told people, you know what? If I can't talk to him, I'm not going to see him. Because it's not going to work. If you want him to and he doesn't want to, it's not going to work. And it's the same thing with working with, if someone's calling for their kid. Do they really want to be here? Because I've had kids come in and it's a waste of time for everybody. And so that doesn't happen anymore because I covered this beforehand. Now,
Does that mean you put him on the phone?
no,
Okay.
not necessarily. That's where I'm going next.
Okay.
So here's what I do now. This is pretty foolproof. So I say, does your daughter or son want to come in? Does your husband really want to come in? Well, I think so. Not sure. Well, maybe they're a little hesitant. I said, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll set up an appointment. If you like what we've said so far, we'll set up an appointment, and we'll call the first 15 to 20 minutes a consult, free consult. And if they're good with it and they're happy with it, then we'll continue as a full session. Because the first 20 minutes is what you do anyway. It's the same stuff. You're just asking them about them, getting rapport, telling them a little bit about hypnosis, you know. If it's a client, it's a little different. If it was a client who was totally committed to see you, you'd save what we're going to do in hypnosis for a little bit later. But you'll put that in the front end to help alleviate this skittish client about what's going to happen and how they're going to do it, right? And you're going to talk all about how you're in control of hypnosis. You do the work. You have the ability. You are awesome. I've taken millions of people just like you through this. You rock. I can tell you're a perfect client. And you know, I've seen this and blah, 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 confidence, right? I've only had one person leave after 20 minutes and say, I don't want to do it. And they came back later anyway and worked with me. It works so well. The only way it won't work, really, is if they just don't like you personally. You don't resonate with you as a therapist, which is fine. This happens occasionally. You know, I've had clients do one session with me. And I got a funny story for you. I had this one 17-year-old who, she comes in and kind of her dad was dragging her in, and I did my best to gain rapport, and she wanted to do the work the first session, so I go, okay, let's rock and roll, let's do this. And we did. And the next time, her dad really wanted her to come back. She got some results, but she was really hesitant. And I was talking with the dad. I said, well, You know, if you can get her to come in, I was done trying to convince her of anything. I did the work. She knows me. Anyway, she ended up coming in. We got about 10, 15 minutes in, and you guys can kind of tell how my energy is. And I'm just like this in the office. And at one point, she's looking at me she's like this. And she's looking at me and she's going, "You're corny." I go, "Yeah, I am. You darn right I am." I say, "I tell you what, I've been in the corporate world for 20 years. I can do straight if you want. I can do the straight corporate guy, but it's really boring. You want me to do straight? I'll do it." She goes, "No, go ahead." but she opened it up. I figured it out. She just didn't resonate. We didn't click. I didn't get it. Usually I'm pretty good at matching where they're at, but I missed this one until she finally just broke it open and then it worked. But you know, that's really the only reason they're not going to work with you. If you do everything else right, you know, and that's fine. You shouldn't work with that person if that's the case. You got to have rapport, right? Good. All right. And somewhere, whether it's on the phone call, and I mentioned this already, explain the two things that we have to address. I'm really big on this, and I say it multiple times. Well, I should have put this earlier, but it's fine where it's at here on the outline. We've got to do two things. We've got to deal with the mental and emotional habits and patterns that may or may not have caused this, but even if it wasn't the cause, it's the residual effects of the underlying. So we got to do both. I work on both planes. I work in both arenas. Because a lot of hypnotherapists out there only do the subconscious thing. And I'm a little bit different that way. And I encourage you, especially if you're going to do sports. But you know what? I do everything this way. I don't care if I was doing weight loss or smoking. I spend half of my session on regular talk, and it's not counseling. It is training. It is mental training. This is very important in certain states. This one in particular. We do not counsel. We don't know how to counsel. We're not trained. No, we are coaches and trainers. We teach people mental techniques and tools to use to better their life. That's on my disclosure sheet. I'm not licensed to do anything but that. I'm not licensed to do anything. I'm not licensed. And I'm very careful about that, and we all should too. Stick within our scope of practice, right? Okay. Personal history. I spend a lot of time. Flip over to page... We're going to start going back and forth between page 8, which is the session structure now, and the outline. We'll flip back and forth. 8 and page... We're on 2 now. Y'all see the session structure page? All right. So this is a basic organization for how I do my sessions. And there's some flexibility in there. So right now we're on session 1. We're going to start on session 1, the kind of things I do in there. And I always start with this detailed personal history. And if you turn that page, you'll see personal history questions and conversation continuers. The goal of the first part of every session is to get them talking as much as possible. Asking a ton of questions. There's a lot of things that happen in here. Number 1, I'm building rapport, of course. Number 2, I'm looking for their patterns. You'll see them if you get them to talk enough, right? But number 3, we're looking for teaching opportunities. Okay? I believe hypnosis has begun the first phone call or the first communication I have with this client. If it's someone else who called, then it's when they walk in the door. The hypnosis doesn't start when I start doing my music and talk in soothing tones. It starts when they walk in the door. I just assume we're doing waking hypnosis, if in my book. All right. I got a couple techniques for you on page 8. One of them, to get them to keep talking, is the parenting technique. I love this. This is so cool. Oops, page 8? Where is it? Page 9, yes, thank you. All right? The parenting technique is you take the last few words of the sentence that they gave you, and you repeat those words with a questioning tag on the end, questioning tone. So if they say, Yeah, I didn't do so well last week in my game. Didn't do so well last week in your game? Yeah, it was, I broke down, the game fell apart, I got tense, timid. Tense, timid? You can take this forever. You can just keep doing it and keep doing it. Now, if you do it too much, some people might get a little irritated, so break it up a little bit. There's a wonderful book Bandler wrote called Persuasion Engineering, where he talks about doing this when he did an experiment as a car salesman, where he basically sold a car doing this technique. It's quite interesting, but it's pretty simple stuff, all right? As you're asking, as I said up here, you're looking and listening for generalizations, wholehearted beliefs. You're really listening intently for their problem. You can see, you can hear it. Sometimes you can just feel it, where all their little negativities. And all I'm doing, I'm writing down those negativities. I'm not writing everything down. I'm writing the things I can tell that we need to work on. It'll be so obvious. You'll hear it. If the better you can get them, the more you can get them to talk, the better is the bottom line. Another acronym, which I have not put in the book, it's worth writing down, to help anybody talk more. And you can use, this is really good for networking, by the way. Family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. If you're ever stuck with what to say to somebody in a party or anything, go back to 4.
What's O again?
Occupation, recreation, dreams. This is a good one to go back to.
His feelings.
Another cool little tip.
Yeah.
Now, as you're doing a personal history, there's another outcome that you are holding. You start off, as I mentioned here on page 9, and number 2, you start off with all the bad stuff questions. What's wrong? What's holding you back? I've got a ton of questions here. Tell me about your rotten coach. Tell me about the teammates that you don't like. Tell me about the difficulties you have with your parents. Tell me about, you just go on and on, bring out all the bad stuff, and you watch their body. It's so obvious. You're going to have so much fun with this. And then, towards the end of this personal discovery, personal detail history discovery, now you go into all the good stuff. What do you do great at? What are your strengths? And then we finish up with, back to page 8, love and technical, which is a process where we find out all the things they love about their sport, or the things that they do if it's not sport, or the things they love about life, or their favorite thing to do, or anything. I don't care what it is. And then the whole point of this, when you're done with a detailed personal history, you've watched them right in front of you go from, my coach hates me, and my husband is a dud, and life sucks, I hate my job, or all that to, oh my God, it's so much fun when, and then you point it out at the end of it. Say, boy, you're a lot different than you were about 10 minutes ago when you were talking about your coach. Did you notice that? Light bulbs go off. It's so much fun. And then what do? Look what you did. Just by a few thoughts. This is huge for people. They don't recognize they have the power to do this. You point it out. And the whole time, this whole detailed personal history, or everything we do, the goal here is to get them to experientially come to their own conclusions and live what you're trying to teach them. I mean, we could spend all day. I could do this forever. I can talk, as you can tell, and tell people you need to do this, you need to think this, you need to do that. And they go, well, that's interesting, but it's all up here, right? And they may or may not memorize it. You guys may or may not memorize some of this. We can get it into the body through experience. So that's a great way to get them to do this. Realize that their thoughts affect their emotions. I'm glad you brought that up about athletes being connected to their body. They're not. And we want them to realize that their thoughts, and not just athletes, this is everybody, right? That their thoughts turn to emotions. That they have the ability to change their thoughts, which then affects their emotions, which puts them in a state where they can achieve some things. And I'll just say simple things like, so let me ask you, you think you'd play better right now, the way you're talking to me right now, and the way you're feeling right now? Or the way you were about 20 minutes ago, when we were talking about how your life sucked? Well, obviously. You see, now all of a sudden things click inside if they start seeing connections. But I'm doing my best to let them come to the conclusion through experience. So I don't just ask them a bunch of questions. I'll plenty of times interrupt them for teaching moments. Okay? I'm back to the main outline here.
Craig, I have a
Yes.
question about personal history.
Yes.
Do you send them any form to fill out ahead of time?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I've considered that, and I can see the use if it's going to be some conversation starters.
Yeah.
I can see that the benefit of that, so I'm glad you brought that up. The question is have them fill out a form beforehand. If that helps somebody bring stuff up, great, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I do send a form in, and then it has all their information, and so it's in my files, my records, they're doctor,
Okay.
medical
It's a good
information.
suggestion if somebody
And
wants to jump on that.
I've also found that, some of the people will tell me that just going through the questions, they're already engaged, at home. They're already starting their process before they even get into my office.
Good, good.
Plus, I think we need to get their approval, written permission to hypnotise them. I think I read that somewhere or something.
Okay, well that's in
That's
my
our practice.
Registration. Yeah.
that's in
Practice
my
disclosures
my
statement.
my papers I do.
Okay.
Yep, good. Often to help break open their ability to come up and talk. I'll often in the beginning say, listen, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and it really doesn't matter what we're talking about. I say, we can talk about teddy bears, and we can talk about ants and monkeys. It really doesn't matter. I just need to hear what's going on with you. I'll pick up what I need from you. So let's just talk about whatever you want to talk about. Because some people are kind of shy, and they're kind of hesitant about some of these questions I have. I put a whole list of questions just to get you started. Just soak them up, study them. I wouldn't recommend having them there in front of you unless you want that. That's fine. But soak them up and just be curious. Remember, before every client, I wonder what this will be like. You go in with that attitude. Wonder what this will be like. That's the antidote to fear. Curiosity. All right. Repeating back keywords, NLP, basic stuff. Get rapport, empathize. You know what I found really powerful is, and this can backfire if it's done wrong, but occasionally I'll have somebody who doesn't like me finishing their sentences, but most people do like it. Like they'll say something like, whenever I get to the beam, talking about gymnastics for instance, and I say, is that when you have that feeling that comes up in your gut? And they go, yeah! And is it because you think this and that? They go, yeah! I've just seen just amazing connection. You got to be careful with that, because I've actually turned someone off that way, and I've learned how to be subtle. But I want to offer that. If you feel like it's a person who likes being led, some people are born leaders. They don't like that. Some people are followers, and they really like that, because then they feel like you know them. You're in their head already, and they're willing to follow you to the ends of the earth to get their outcome. And when I was in the corporate world, they taught us this thing called servant leadership at Fortune 500 company. And I bought into it hook, line, and sinker. And it works some of the time with some of the people. And after 2 years of doing this, which basically means you do for them, and then they'll do back for you. And it's all about teamwork, kind of the Japanese model a little bit mixed in there. And I was doing this, and then it just wasn't happening until I started taking a more paternal approach. I got way more results. And I came to this conclusion, I don't want to belabor this too much, but I came to this conclusion, Lots of people want a daddy or a mommy. They want someone to be their daddy. They want someone who feels confident, who's just going to tell them what to do so they don't have to think. I'm pretty good at being that. In fact, I have to be careful with people who don't want that, as you can tell. But keep that in mind. I think that is, even I want that. When I had business coaches, I'm a Leo, I'm a born, take charge, go for it, be the leader guy. But even when I had business coaches, it just felt so good when my coach would just say, Craig, listen, here's the way it is, you need to do this. And he was good at reading me when I needed that. So don't be afraid to use that. That can be really powerful. And if they think that you already know, you're 3 steps ahead of them, you know where they are in their life, and if we're just working on stress or anxiety, say, yeah, you know, I'm guessing, and that's a good way to put it, I'm guessing that, imagining that you blah, 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 blah. Like, and, you know, 95% of the time you're going to get it right. Because you're only going to bring it up if you have some personal experience or some wisdom or have a way to build rapport that way. And then go with it. And they just go, oh, my hero, what can I do for you? Let's do this. It's so great. All right. Okay. On the personal history, towards the bottom, get the best, the worst, and the hero. The best. Always get the way they felt the best. The way, and again, we're going to do that towards the end. You know, their best game, their best experience, their best whatever, and go into detail about. You know, they'll say, oh yeah, I played good at, I played good a couple years ago when I scored 80 points or whatever. Great, tell me about what it was like. Give me some details. What were you thinking before the game? If we're not talking sports, tell me about the best time you've ever had in your life. And then, what was going on there in your life? Was your life just perfect? Well, no, you know, it was a picnic and, so you're able to have a wonderful time and feel good about yourself even while the rest of your life is not perfect. That's interesting. You know, I'm showing them that they have the ability for their thoughts to translate into their emotions. And they're doing it right there in the chair, right in front of you, and you highlight that for them. Good? We're teaching as we go. All right, moving on to any questions about personal history, how to get stuff out of them, how to just keep. Yes.
About the hero. I want to say more about the hero.
Thank you. Good. And anybody call me on this stuff if I gloss over these things. Thank you for doing that. The hero is, you ask them in the personal history, is there somebody that you admire? Is there somebody that you want to emulate? Is there somebody that has the attributes that you would like to adopt? And you get everything about that person. If it's an athlete in their sport, who is somebody who's a professional, or it could be just your coach, or it could be someone on your team who's amazing, and you want to get that out of you. And I'll just give you. I was going to save the actual. I got a whole list of techniques we'll do on athletes, but I'll give it because this will work for anything. What you do with that later is you're going to have them in hypnosis go into that person's body. You have them get a remote control, you have them imagine sitting on the couch in their home, and you have them press the remote. They can float on into the TV screen, and they can hover over and watch this person for a while from afar, and they hit another button, and you're going to go inside that person's body. And then you have them become that person, looking through their eyes, and you take them through it. And you say, that person, let's say it's, Michael Jordan. And now Michael Jordan is going to teach you how to play basketball. His DNA is teaching your DNA. His vision in his eyes and his brain connections are now reconfiguring yours. And you go through every last little thing. And all the things they said about Michael Jordan before that they admire, of course, you're going to feed it back and expand on it, right? And then you end it with something like, all right, now at the count of 3, you're going to take everything you learned from Michael Jordan, you're going to bring it back with you here to the here and now. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Take it out of there. All your DNA, muscles, tissues, everything that Michael Jordan ever taught you. I've done this with clients, and that's the only thing I've done in a session. And one person in particular came back, a wrestler, who was, this close to his greatness, just needed a little boost. I did that, and he won the whole thing. And it was like I get the biggest testimony from his mom and everything, and it was the easiest thing in the world for me. I just asked him a few questions, we expanded on his hero, and he took it, and he destroyed it. Good. Let's see. Okay. Thought control. All right. Everything we're going to do about here is in this section is getting them to be able to control their thoughts, because you will hear this a lot. My thoughts are out of control. I overthink. You'll hear that a lot. So that's why getting in control of your thoughts. You can say it the way David suggested. I'm going to teach you how to get in control of your thoughts. Might be more palatable. I'm just kind of in your face. I'm going to teach you thought control that way. Okay? Like I said before, it is waking hypnosis. It's coming up, getting the client to come up with their own conclusions as we go through this whole process. Now, the first step is chunking down. Anybody's done any NLP, this is the most powerful tool I've taken from all my trainings in NLP. I'm an NLP trainer. I don't even remember 90% of it, but I remember this one. Actually, I think I do it naturally now. It's just kind of unconscious. But this one I do consciously. Chunking down means you do not accept their labels and their generalizations, and you question them, and you dig into them. I got a whole bunch of possibles here. You know, you're asking things like, really? Where'd you learn that? Who taught you that? I'm not sure about that. Isn't it true that? You just never, just don't let them have it. You know, like, here's a big one I'm always talking about. You know, I've got this habit. And you know, and some people say it takes 21 days to change a habit. I go, really? How do you know that? Well, that's because people say that. Oh, so I bet you could change a habit like that, permanently, lifetime. You go, really? I go, yeah. Well, you know how people drive on, this is a good story to tell. You know how people here in our country drive on the right side of the road? Yeah, and if you're talking to an adult, they'll get this more than a kid who hasn't learned how to drive. But and so, you know, adults all the time go to countries where they drive on the left-hand side of the road. And yeah, they got all these habits, but all of a sudden, because they have to, you can drive on the left-hand side of the road day one. Now, maybe you're not perfect, but you can drive on the left-hand side of the road like that. You can change all kinds of habits overnight. It's motivation.
Yeah.
It's not 21 days. It's motivation. Then we're going to talk a bit about motivation later. I just destroy anybody who says I got a habit of that way. It's all about motivation. Someone who says, you know, I just don't know how to focus. I can't focus. My coach is always telling me how to focus. And I'll say, really? You don't know how to focus? So, do you ever play video games? How long do you play video games for? Oh, you focused there. I get really sarcastic like this, and I do it kind of a funny, corny way. So and I make them laugh. You know. Then we go into here. This is a good one. What does that mean to you? Circle, highlight, whatever. I use that constantly. What does that mean to you? Make them spell it out, and find out what the origins of that belief. They'll tell you everything in this personal detailed history, and you're going to use this stuff later in your process work. Okay, time for a little exercise. Question,
Before we
yes.
do that, yeah. What do you do with somebody who you've moved them over? I'm just imagining, like, if you told me, well, you can focus when you're playing video games, and I would say, yes, I can do that, but I don't see how I could do it here.
So
Or if
I would
that's-
say, why not? Why not?
Okay, that's great.
Tell me what's the difference.
Well,
Pretend, be the client.
there's a huge difference. Video games I really like, and this I'm just like, can't do it. I can't do it. I've tried and tried and tried.
What are we talking about? The reason you need to focus for? Becoming a better athlete of some sort?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, so you don't want to be a better athlete, huh? You don't like being a better athlete? See, I just nailed, I'm going to nail everything you say.
Cool.
I'm going to destroy. I'm going to get them where they're just out of, they got nothing left, and they have to adopt the logic here.
Just take away their excuses.
Take away their excuses.
Thank you.
Exactly. eliminate all their excuses, one at a time. Pick their little language patterns apart. Because their language patterns are not working for them. They're not. It's because they have these wholehearted beliefs that they've just lived with now. They've just accepted wholeheartedly, and no one's ever questioned them on it. And it's really powerful. It totally prepares them for the work you're going to do. Because all these little things that are coming up, that's the blocks to making this stuff work. What we're going to do next. That's what creates all the fears. It's just a network of intertwined, limiting beliefs that turn into blocks and walls, right? So we're just going to nail them one at a time. Everything they say, I pick it apart. Good one, good
Lovely.
example.
Thank you.
I love that example. So we're going to do a little exercise here. Client and therapist. Again. Okay. Therapist is going to ask the client how you came to, is going to ask the other person how you came to be doing the hypnosis and your difficulties. What's your most difficult thing about being a therapist or learning hypnosis or anything you want? This is just to get some conversation about an issue that we can kind of work on, right? And difficulties. Okay? And then the therapist, this is all still therapist. Client's just going to kick back and answer the questions. And you're going to practice two things. The parroting technique to get them to go on, or anything else you can come up with to get them to talk more, right? And as the client, I want you to kind of be difficult. Kind of be like, answer quick, short questions. Like if I were to ask you, because this happens. So why do you do your sport? Because it's fun. I get that all the time. Right? So you're going to practice drawing that out and dialing in. And you're going to be, as the therapist, listening for all those little beliefs. And practice destroying them one by one. And then get some feedback afterwards from your client. And client, you're welcome to give your therapist some ideas on how to destroy those. But be a difficult client. Be a difficult, answer short little quick questions and throw out some limiting beliefs. Give your therapist a chance to work on it and destroy them and pick them apart like that, right?
So the client has, if I'm the client here in this exercise, I have difficulties being a hypnotherapist.
Yes.
What's my problem?
Yeah. The client
It's my problem.
Yes, the client is the one who's going to say, your therapist asks, so you're a hypnotist and you have difficulties, tell me about that. Or how did you get into hypnotherapy and what are your difficulties? Anything about, if you want to pick a different problem, that's fine. If you actually want to work on something like, I'm procrastinating or something like that, feel free to do that. I just made a nice easy topic here.
I really don't understand what you're saying. I'm sorry.
Okay, good.
I don't get it.
Okay.
What are you saying?
So the therapist
Yes.
is going to ask the client, so tell me what your most difficult issue is. Tell me what is difficult about being a hypnotherapist, or some other problem if they want to work on a different problem. Okay?
So the client is asking the therapist.
No.
No.
Client just kicks back and answers
Okay.
questions.
I think because
You're
you used
throwing us off with
hypnosis.
hypnosis.
Yeah,
Okay.
question.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
What if we just talked
Right.
about a problem?
Yeah.
Problem, thank you. I was going to
Okay.
make it really easy and light to
Problem.
begin. Problem, ask about
Okay,
problem.
I get that.
All right, thank you. That works. We'll go with that. Therapist is working on parroting and chunking down, destroying beliefs one at a time. Simple? Does that make more sense?
Yes.
Sorry I complicated that. Yeah. Questioning everything that they say, and pick it apart. Cool? Pretty simple. Let's just go. Let's go 5 more minutes apiece. That sounds good. Cool. Pair up. Find somebody different. You'll meet with everybody on the weekend. Write down, if you have a paper to write down some of their some of their limiting beliefs and things, write them down and highlight
They're
them.
out and in.
Okay.
And you use your book, there's all kinds of questioning
Want to be the therapist?
words.
No, it's sarcasm. If it's self-limiting and it's keeping me from failing
So your mind
by not stepping out and doing something.
Ah.
Well,